So, I had a dream recently that I wanted to share, and I was kind of guided that I should share it. As many of you know, that may be interested in the kind of stuff that I talk about, astrology, spirituality, there is a shift of consciousness that is occurring, and we kind of, people are starting to awaken to different things and starting to, see things for what they are and be more awake and aware of what's going on. And there's a lot of predictions out there of what is coming from an astrological, um, you know, perspective. There's been a lot going on this year. We had the Saturn Neptune conjunction at 0 degrees of Aries, which is the birth of, you know, the start of the astrological cycle. Saturn is the 3D, Neptune is collective consciousness, things like that. So it was that kind of kicked off and seeded a new cycle. And now we're getting ready to move into July, where um, there is going to be something. I don't think we've had it for a long time. I know the three outer planets have been in a situation where they've kind of talked, but this one is really supportive. And it's going to be Pluto is in Aquarius. Aquarius is very futuristic and technology. It's more for the collective and the bigger picture. Um, and it's going to be sextile Neptune, which is in Aries. Aries is about the raw courage and drive to claim one's place and trust their place in the world and the courage to live that out. And the fire, it's a warrior. It's very driven. And Uranus is in Gemini. Gemini is the sign of the twins. It is curious. It wants to connect. It's also communication, um, things like that. And so Pluto is going to be trining Uranus, and I'll go into all this more later. I just want to kind of give an overview. So they'll be in a nice flowing understanding communication. Neptune is sitting in the middle of them. Um, and sextile, which is also a nice communication as well. So those three outer planets, they have to do a lot with um, the collective and different things. And you can look at, as those change signs throughout history, how they've affected the population on the planet. So we've not had a situation like this in a while where everything's been, I don't know, ever, where everything's been seated at the 0 degrees and then the three planets in this formation of supportive dialogue to help us out. Um, Jupiter will square Pluto, then the sun comes in. So there's some other things, but kind of wanted to give you this is some unprecedented energy that's going to help. So there's a lot of predictions on what this will be. No one truly knows exactly how it's going to play out. Um, Personally, I have some, thoughts on that. I can, feel the different energies. I feel like a lot of souls will choose to leave whenever I tap into that. I get a lot of water energy, which, could be an actual water event. It could be the collective emotions. And I get really emotional and sad because I miss probably more the emotion, the water with the emotion, because I get really sad and it feels very heavy. Um, because I just, not that I think the souls I don't want to get too into that, but I think the souls are choosing to leave and it's part of their contract. But at the time, it will feel heavy on earth because a lot of people will understand and will have to transition. Anyway, I had a dream, very, very vivid. I've got Neptune in the 12th house. So that's the dream state. That's tap in collective consciousness. It's on my ascendant. So it's kind of comes through how I view the world. So I get a lot of messages from dreams and am shown, you know, what I need to work on and some different things. But it felt very instructional. And it felt very much like this is kind of what it's going to be and what's coming up. And I was kind of guided that I needed to share it. Um, so whoever, finds this it needs to hear what I need to say, I guess. Um, but I was, in an airport getting ready, I guess, to go somewhere. And, um, airports represent liminal spaces because you're neither here nor there. And I went up to this girl and she asked me some question that had to do with Greek goddesses. And my question or my answer was Ophelia, which Ophelia, has nothing to do with Greek. And she's like, no, that's the wrong answer. And and I analyze, I'm a lucid dreamer. So in my dream, I'm analyzing like, why did Ophelia come out? What did I have to do? What did that mean? And I'll get to that in a minute. And, I'm still in my mind trying to figure that out. So all of a sudden, it's like I knew the shift was occurring, and I was, and I still laugh about it. In my dream, I'm like, oh, soul, yes, I'm ready to connect. I fully surrender to my soul, and I just throw up my hands, and I just like, oh yeah, whatever you want me to do, let's go. I was very excited, and it was kind of like, okay, you've got this is not quite how it works. We got some other things to show you. So I was like, okay. And I could feel the excitement in the dream, and I'm just like, okay, whatever, let's whatever you need me to do. So I go over and I see the door behind the person that works for the airline, and I try to open it because I'm like, oh, my kids are not here with me at this airport. I need to go get my kids. And it was like, no, you cannot go back and get anyone once this has started. Like once there's no going back. Um, and I was like, okay. They're like and it was like everybody makes their own decision of where to go from here. And then they were very like, once it starts, there's no going back. It's from here on out forward. I was like, okay. Well, then another door opened, and I'm like, oh, that's the door I'm going to go through, and that's how I get to my soul. And I start running and then I stop. I'm like, what if that's not the right place? What if my soul doesn't want me to go there? I was just all caught up with what was going on and all the excitement. And I just paused and I was like, I don't think that's right either. And then go back to the door one last time to see if I can go get my kids. And I think my kids were just representative of people that, want to take people with them. And it was like, no, we told you once this begins, there's no going back. And I was like, okay. And so I said, well, what do I do? And it was like, you go within. And I said, but how do I go within? I'm in this crowded airport and I'm looking around at all these people, on their phones or, busy doing this. And I said, it's so crowded and loud and noisy. How do I shut that out? And they said, you have to go within and listen and connect and find your soul. And then my eyes were dimming and going dark. And it said, and it was like the voice was outside is the dream. To rebuild, you have to go in so you can find what you're going to open your eyes to and rebuild. Um, and redream, I guess. And so kind of dissecting that, I was looking, the question about Greek goddesses and Ophelia really kind of threw me for a loop. But Greek goddesses were parts of us that we projected onto these godlike figures. And Ophelia drove herself mad by trying to please out external events, which I don't know anything about Ophelia. I mean, I really, but like this is not so like it's really like a message because, and so it was really like that first part of the dream was really like, we got to quit going outside of ourselves to find our inside. We have to do what's right. And then, I've told a few friends about the dream, and they're like, "Oh, that sounds scary." It's like it didn't feel at all scary, you know. And I think part of them was, when I try to open the door, not having my kids, and it wasn't a literal message about my kids not coming with me. I think it's actually a nod to our sovereignty as individual souls that whatever path we decide to take when this shift happens, is our path to choose. Some souls will choose one path, one another, and one another, but no one can stop us from that. Whatever happens is all this is gone. We're only moving forward. Um, so I think that's really beautiful because that's what we're here for. We all are sovereign souls and have free will, and we don't want anybody to interfere with that, no matter how much they love us, because at the end of the day, our souls are us, and they have the plan and the highest and greatest good for us. Um, and so then the larger part of the dream, you've got a large chunk of these people just they they recognized that something was going on and that they may have been inconvenienced, but they were still going about their lives. And then you had the light where I could have easily have just run to it and escaped Earth and and been free of the 3D. And then you've got the third group that's going to stop and separate from what they see happening and be like, well, what do I do? What do I want to rebuild? What do I want to see? How can I, you know, redream the dream? So I think whenever this shift happens, there's just going to be people that just keep on with 3D dream as it is. A bunch of people will be going home because they see the freedom and want to go back home to their soul because Earth is heavy and very dense and they want out. They've learned whatever they need to learn and they're ready to get out of here, and they're not here to rebuild whatever the new shift is. And then in the third group is um you know those people who are here to help rebuild what we want to see and the change that we want um from there. And there's no right or wrong, and it's my understanding, this was not part of my dream, but it's my understanding, like if you don't shift and close your eyes and go within and redream the dream, you don't have to stay where you are in the 3D. They can come along with us, as time goes on and they become more conscious. But some souls need to stay in the 3D for their plan, whatever they're working on. Um, and but yeah, so it's again, whatever happens, it's my understanding that time is going to and reality is going to be more malleable, and we'll be able to kind of work with it a little bit easier and attract what we need in a more heart-centered way to help others and to put forth, you know, I think things are going to be very community based, very vibrational, um, yeah, very community based. I think we're really going to go and help our neighbors and build these pods of people that we want to like help and work with. And that doesn't mean we're not global. It just means there's just going to be less of this need to show off things. And we're going to really, have to, we're really going to work together to build a nice life. And it's, even though everything's very supportive and we have a lot of help, I do feel like there's going to be a lot of work to make the switch. And I don't say any of this to scare anybody, because the only way we can grow and evolve as souls and humanity is through the pain, and we never grow through, you know, light and rainbows. I mean, we go through um hard times, and that's when we grow the most and evolve the most and learn the most. Um and I think that's kind of how it's going to come out. But I guess what you need to remember whenever whatever happens, and whenever you recognize it, because you know whatever's coming, um that we all recognize as some kind of shift, just remember to not panic. If you hear, and I'm going to do another video about this later, but I've really kind of cut out external sources right now. I don't want any of that heaviness. And you know, that's a whole nother thing. My digital diet's just changed, I guess is the best way to say it. But whatever is coming, whatever nudges you get, whatever dreams, whatever feelings, trust those and follow those and ask to be guided to what is for your highest and greatest good. And listen to that, even if it seems kind of silly or doesn't make sense. Um, just trust that and do that. But I really I felt, my higher self told me to share the dream. And again, I do feel like it's instructional. So, pay attention to what's coming and what happens you know, and just kind of remember that you're the one co-creating your reality. And to do that on a higher level is to do that with, your soul and work with the universe and not to shut that out. But if you have questions, I'm happy to answer and, happy to hope that helps some. I know there's a lot of information out there and, a lot of predictions on what exactly may come. But that's kind of what I got and what I feel is pretty true on um, the main theme of how it's going to play out. So, but okay, well, I hope y'all have a wonderful day and I'll talk to you soon.